Now it is time for the best segment on the Go Home Show podcast, and that is Wrestling Room 101. I'm your inaugural champion, and if you're a little bit new to this podcast or this segment, basically it's where every week a different member of the panel will bring with them one thing from the world of wrestling that they'd like to get rid of forever. They present it to the group. If it enters Room 101, that's it. It's gone. It's never coming back as long as it's been agreed by the judge on this week's particular panel. Last week, I made a pretty big thing. I got Raw Underground cancelled by WWE. So this does affect the world of wrestling. So with that being said, Will is going to be the judge this week because we're going to be seeing Crusher versus Chris. Wow. And I believe, Crush, you've got something you want to present to get into Room 101.
The red Hell in a Cell needs to be binned. We first saw it in, I believe it was 2018, and in my opinion, it didn't look good at all. It looked like it'd been spray painted. Like sometimes it's hard to see through. It doesn't have that classic feel, as we've seen throughout the years from '97, as Elliot mentioned earlier in the podcast. I just don't like it. I saw it come back on Raw, and yeah, I wasn't a fan. I said if they do a blue Hell in a Cell for SmackDown, it kind of be acceptable, but it's just a red one. It doesn't make sense for SmackDown to wrestling a red one as well. And do we even have to go into 2019 with the Fiend against Seth Rollins when it had that red hue? Like, it's already bad enough to then add a red hue. Just, yeah. In the bin, in Room 101, please. Thank you very much.
Interesting there. Crush still had 11 seconds to use up on his time. And Will making notes. Don't know if that's positive or negative. I will let you know. Reset the timer. Chris, your rebuttal.
I think the fact that Michael couldn't even fill a minute of air about why this is an issue speaks volumes. Now, do you know what? I'm not a fan of the red cell. I preferred the old school version. However, in the world of professional wrestling, when we have this power in our hands to get Raw Underground cancelled, the one thing that Michael can bring to the stage is a red-coloured cell. On this very day, we had a steak dinner that broke out into musical song, but the biggest issue we have in all of wrestling is the red cell. Now, I'm going to hold back and say, you know what? Another time, I'd been all for putting the red cell in the bin. But out of principle, by the fact that Michael the Crusher Henson could come with nothing stronger than, it looks a bit silly, and we should have a blue one, it just speaks volumes. And out of principle, this should stay in because Crush deserves to be punished for the fact that he could not come up with a better opinion for Room 101.
Brilliant.
Just to check, how many seconds was that?
I'm a bit slow on the uptake, so that was a minute bang on.
A minute bang on, because I have opinions. You bring this nonsense. Crush, tell me I'm wrong.
Okay, well, give me a countdown.
Yeah, and just as a judge, I'd like to impart here that you've made your points. Now I would like to see what changes you'd like to make, obviously specifically towards you, Michael. 3, 2, 1, you're back in the room.
So just as Chris saying it's just me, do you disagree with Seth Rollins when Seth Rollins himself, the Messiah, slated the cell? Absolutely slated it after that Bray Wyatt, and you're disagreeing with him. That says a lot about you, Chris, and why WWE haven't signed you yet. That's all I'm saying. But in terms of the cell, bring back the classic cell, bring back the grey, the silver one. It's the classic one we've seen throughout the years. The red Hell in a Cell is terrible. Seth Rollins doesn't like it. I don't like it. Pretty much the whole of wrestling Twitter doesn't like it. And Chris, even this morning, before we started recording, your words were, how am I supposed to defend this red cell? And then you've come up with this ridiculous argument. So, heel turn.
You've broken the fourth wall, Michael. We don't speak off air. Right, Chris, you have 30... I'm going to give you 30 seconds, not because I'm punishing you, but I know you can make a more succinct point. 3, 2, 1...
Firstly, heel turn from Crusher proves that I'm in the right. He's got desperate. He's clutching at straws to bring things outside of podcast kayfabe. But his expert in this opinion is Seth Rollins. The man who broke up the Shield is the man we want to take as our basement of judgment for this situation. Not only that, he turned on Buddy Murphy. He turned on Austin Theory. And do you know what? The day that Seth Rollins turns on Crusher is a day I will look forward to. You will eat that curb stomp and you'll get what you deserve, Crush. And do you know what? It'll happen inside a bright red cell.
Interesting. I think going into this, we were all agreed That it was sort of like, how do you defend the indefensible? Like the Red Hell in a Cell hasn't had the best of starts, has it? But I feel like Crush has sort of clawed victory from the jaws of defeat, because you just gave me nothing. What you want to change it to was, in your words, like the old grey sort of one. And I needed to be like excited by the future. You come up with a problem, you give a solution. The red one 3 times in one night is not great. The biggest argument, I think, was around Seth Rollins, Bray Wyatt. And obviously it didn't work with the red hue, which should be a wrestler's name if they're ever thinking of one. But there's no alternative here. There's an old Cell, but, we can't go backwards. We've got to keep moving forwards. So, I mean, it's nothing personal, Mick. It never is.
What would you do with the Cell then, Will? What would you bring forward?
I'm just the judge.
Well, come on. What would you bring forward? What would you do to the Cell?
See, this is classic Crusher. He's deflecting. He realises he's lost and he's trying to change the perspective.
I just want to hear Will's opinion. He said he wants to bring something for the future. Let's hear it.
Well, I didn't have to prepare an argument for this. So, and the fact that you put me on the spot there, Chris, it's really making me want to choose Chris even more.
Because you don't have an answer.
Pardon?
You don't have an answer.
I'd actually been the Hell in the Cell.
I mean,
I'd actually just been
Room 101.
I'd just been Hell in the Cell for like 2 to 3 years. Do you know what I mean? Because, I was mentioning earlier, the Armageddon match. When was the last time you looked at a Hell in the Cell match and thought, oh, that structures actually could cause some serious damage? Do you know what I mean? It's lost its je ne sais quoi. Anyway, that's a separate point for another day. I will not put a red Hell in the Cell in Room 101 until there is a viable other option. And it is not for me to decide that, because I am just a judge and I am impartial. So today's winner is Chris, the Anderson Daniels. Congratulations, you win a prize.
I popped so much when you said he snatched defeat from the jaws of victory that I yanked my headphone out and the bud itself stayed in my ear. And if you watch the video back, there's a minute of me panicking, doing this, trying to get an earbud that's stuck in my ear. Crush, I think this was a bit like John Cena versus Brock Lesnar, where everyone expected something from you and you were decimated. And I don't think we'll ever see you in the same light again. I think you've thrown it away. However, again, what do you think, the audience? Should the Red Hell in a Cell be scrapped? And if so, what would you do instead? Because you're right. We don't just create problems, we want solutions. Let us know on Twitter @GoHomeShowPod, or let us know in the YouTube comments what should happen to the Red Hell in a Cell.